Welcome, G's and hustlers, to another episode of Nobody Asked Us with Des and Kara. You like that intro? Do you know who that's for?
Snoop.
Snoop-a-loop. So much to talk about. We did like a pregame. Try not to spill all the beans before we get recording, but there's just a lot going on. Happy break day from the trials. How you doing? How you feeling?
I'm very tired. As you can see, my bed in my hotel room tells me to dream big every night before I go to bed.
You touch that?
Yeah. Yes. I'm definitely tired. As I was telling you before, like my routine is, we have late nights here. We have our production meeting after we wrap. By the time you get dinner and everything, it's 10:30, 11. And then you're trying to like calm down from the day, right? It takes me like at least an hour, if not two, to just like calm down. But I'm the kind of person that has to get up and move. Otherwise, I feel lethargic all day. So I'm usually up, by 7:30 or 8, moving, and then back to the room. And then I like to have a good 3-hour chunk where I'm like writing notes or watching videos. And then we have to be to the venue at least 2 hours ahead of time. And then, when I get to the venue, it's really loud, so I don't feel like I can really study there. So I have to be prepared before I get there. And so I'm kind of on this hamster wheel of survival.
Mm-hmm.
So I get a 2-day break here, which is nice.
Will you rest up, or are you going to like pre-study for the next section?
I'm going to be pre-studying. I think that's one thing so for instance so the first night was like super distance heavy. And then the next night, I think we just had 15 semis. And during that day, after I had watched all of the videos of the athletes from their preliminary heat, then I was like prepping for the women's 5,000, watching videos, trying to get ahead a little bit. So I'll definitely either later today or tomorrow, I will take some time to just prep for the women's steeple final and the women's. It's a pretty big distance day again on Thursday. I think it's steeple final, 15 women's semi, and men's 5 preliminary. So, but honestly, the best thing that ever happened is that all these different sites interview people and then post them that night. And it's so helpful. It's just like so helpful. Like I'll be like, I'm just going to watch like 10 minutes of videos, and an hour later, I'm like, shit, I haven't done anything. But you just see the athletes right in the moment. You can kind of see who's kind of like pretending to feel great. You can see who's really like, no, it was amazing. And you can see the athletes that are super dialed in. It's so helpful.
You want to shout out all the media that's doing those videos so that since you obviously can't do that on air. I'm just kidding.
No.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your videos. We appreciate you doing your job.
I do appreciate you doing your job. Yes. Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing my research for me. And I'm not going to shout you out on air, but I do appreciate all the little videos that go up online. It's really helpful. Super helpful.
I've been watching a ton of those too. You do get a lot of nuggets. And I think what's cool is like you get all the different questions, like because you can hear the different media outlets ask a lot of different questions, and everyone has their own style and what like kind of angle they're at. So you have like the very track nerd specific, and then you have like the sentimental family story, and like you get like a really good collection just from one outlet holding their camera up for the whole time. So
basically, I'll watch the whole video. I'll keep pausing it. I'll write everything down, and then I get my notes from NBC. And then I'll take like the nugget that I think is most important and write it on here. And then everything else, I hope I have recall while the race is going on. I mean, honestly, I never look at my notes once it starts. But for me, it's all about writing it down and writing it again. I wish I could just type it. I tried to do that because Trey was like, you're like, when I first started, he's like, you're wasting a lot of time. You could just like type it into a doc. But that's not how my brain works. I have to physically write it to get it to stay.
That's like a thing. That's like an actual tactic of like writing it out helps you remember it. So like the Post-it thing for me, put that on there. You have it. If you need to look at it, you can, but it's like just the
actual writing of the Post-it note.
And then you peel it off and throw it away and you're like, okay, good.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Do you want to talk about the ratings a little bit? Let's talk about this stuff up front before we go into race by race, because I think we have to do that, right?
So the ratings are really good, which is really, really exciting, I will say. So, but it leads to another conversation. So let's just get into it. So yes, the ratings are very, very good. I know this isn't apples to oranges, but for instance, ESPN was thrilled with the NCAA championships with their ratings this year. They're the highest they'd been in a really long time. I don't know if they were record breaking, but they were super, super high.
Yeah, they did well.
And it was 1.7 million views over 4 days. So 4 days of competition. And that was really high and really good. And on Sunday, Snoop Day, we did 5.2 million views. And that's huge.
Sunday, the day formerly known as Sunday,
Which is
Snoop
now
Day.
Snoop Day.
Welcome to Snoop Day, everyone.
Yeah. So that's like the highest. It's 60% more viewership than the Tokyo trials. I mean, like it's great. And I think it's a conversation that we can get into about a lot of anger from the hardcore track fans about Snoop being at the meet, but it brought so many new eyeballs. And are they all going to stay? Of course not. But we can't complain that we have no viewership and then we try something new and we actually get viewership and still complain. You know, it's like I saw a lot of like, it reminded me of women's basketball this year when the hardcore fans were like, "Oh, welcome to women's basketball. You don't know anything." And it's like, who
Right.
who gives a
Don't be a
shit?
gatekeeper.
They're coming in, and isn't that what you want? You want it to grow. Like we're constantly saying, track's gonna die, the viewership's dying. And all of a sudden we get good ratings or we have new people watching and they're like, well, you're not real fans. You're only watching because Snoop was there or you're only watching, it's like,
Yeah.
come on. If we truly love the sport, we want it to grow, we can't gatekeep it. Let whoever wants to watch it. You think after Snoop went tippity top in this men's steeplechase, people changed the channel? No way. That was probably the most watched men's steeplechase ever in the United States.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we can
Right.
get into the coverage of the steeple specifically because it was a little messy and we had a lot of traffic and I do feel like we lost a little bit, not lost a little. We did lose some storytelling there. But I just like, you can't have it both ways. You can't say
Right.
nobody watches it, sport's dead. And then we try something new and we get huge viewership. And then you go, yeah, well, that doesn't matter. Those
Right.
aren't
You're
real
killing the
fans.
sport with
You're
this.
killing the
Like,
sport.
wait,
You jumped the
wait a
shark
minute.
because you brought on Snoop.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like when you have a favorite band and you're like, man, I hope they make it. Man, I hope they make it. And then they do something pretty commercial and they're like, oh, you sold out. I can't believe you sold out. It's like, well, that's how you have to popularize it somehow. And if what makes it popular takes away that, grittiness or authenticity, at some point you have to do it because you need the thing to go mainstream if it's going to make it, right?
Totally. And the other thing too is that we all grew up watching the Olympics and loving the Olympics. It is a show. It's a sporting event for us, as two people who compete at two Olympic Games. It's the height of our careers. But the packaging of it is kind of like a show. It's not like a regular track meet or swim meet. You know what I mean? So it's like I feel like we're in this conundrum where people don't want to pay for streaming. It needs to be free. And then it is free and then they're mad. Like actually, let's just get into the men's steeple. Let's not get into the results. Let's just get
Sure.
into the steeple. And I know that it was messy. There was so much traffic. Look, we went to Snoop twice. There's no problem with that. We went to a commercial. No problem with that. We threw in field. No problem with that. The problem was all three in one 8-minute, 20-second
One
race.
event, right?
And, I talked to my producer after and we agreed it was too much. But what people don't understand behind the scenes is Snoop brought in the viewership. People watched Steeple because he was talking about it. It's on public television. We have to show ads. And one of the beautiful things about track and field is that there's multiple things happening at once. We have to show the field. Like we can't. So was that one in particular, I think, I don't want to say we dropped the ball or anything like that. I wish we wouldn't have gone to field or we wouldn't have had the commercial. But also, just so you guys know, I don't have any control over it.
You didn't decide to do that? You know what? I'm bored.
I'm
gonna run
actually
to the
not in
bathroom.
charge. And so my job is to, when I have the mic and when we are calling it, to do the best job that I can do for the athletes that are out there. I wish we had been able to storytell better. We had built a graphic and we had built some stuff to help storytell, but it didn't work out. And that happens in live television,
That's also, I mean, I think the other thing too that you're doing all the things on air that you can do, but it is production meetings as well. Like you're in there pounding the table, like, no, don't put the commercial here. No, don't put field event. And everyone in there has their agenda
Yeah.
and everyone's fighting for it. And at the end of the day, whatever the producer picks is what you get and you roll with it. But it's not like you're not pounding the table for distance.
Yeah, and this is like the first year, as you know, because I keep sending you stuff that I've asked them to build or talk about. This is the first year I've really like taken authority ahead of time and sent them my ideas. And my producer is awesome. Like Greenie, like he hears my thoughts, he builds me stuff. But again, during live television, Field is saying we haven't been on. Like we have to wrap this up because in the next segment we're talking about a totally different field event. The commercial double box had to go in there. I'm not, there's someone who plans all that out. It has to go in. There's a certain amount of time where it has to happen. And, I think Snoop, did he know anything about the steeple? No, but I do think that got eyeballs on it, It just did. It just did, people. Like
Oh,
him or
I
hate
mean,
him, it did.
yeah, some of the greatest clips were from, I think it's Leslie Jones, the comedian,
Yes.
like just doing crazy shit. And then it was like the last game she was using cuts of NBC, which you can't use that footage without the rights. And so they all got taken down and she was kind of pissed and people were pissed. Like, why would you're just denying viewership and like eyeballs on the sport. And so this year they bring her in and let's do it officially. And we have all these other great stars as well. And now we're mad anyhow.
Right. I
I don't know.
know.
I didn't hear it. Honestly, I didn't hear a ton of complaining. I've kind of been like overwhelmed with people complaining about things, and I'm guilty. We do it sometimes on the
Hmm.
show, but I'm like, I'm just gonna turn off the noise that's like negative. Like, I just want good reviews only.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I can see if you're a hardcore fan and you want to see the whole race. Trust me, I want to show the whole race. But I
You know
also
what
think
you can do if you're a hardcore fan that wants to see the whole race? Buy a fucking ticket. That's where you can go see the race. There's seats in Hayward.
there's a
It's
lot of
crazy.
open
There's
seats
seats
actually.
open. They're there. You want to see the whole race? Buy a ticket. Buy a ticket.
Yeah, I just think it's like we've shot down a lot of this paying for streaming services because we shouldn't have to pay for it, which I mean, listen, this could be a whole episode, but like I think that are all 5.2 million people going to keep watching every day? No. But you know what? We did get some new people to pay attention, and we did get some new people who are going to want to follow. And Snoop is going to be at the Olympics, and they're going to want to continue to see what he's doing. And I don't know. It's like, damn it. You can't please everyone. You just
No,
can't, right?
you
Like, you're
shouldn't
like,
try.
yeah, it's impossible. So, and yeah, we did our best.
I thought it was great. I thought it was really fun. He's entertaining. Like he, had so much energy around the event. He was doing all kinds of things. I'm like, literally, I was like, yo, someone needs to check on him. He's probably so sore today. Like, like you play soccer one day for 25 minutes and you're like, oh yeah, I remember this back as a kid. And then the next you're like, what did I do? Did I like move a couch?
He
Like,
was
no, I
like
kicked
game
the
for
ball around.
everything, right? Like he was
Yeah.
all over Eugene, and he was up for anything. So I can't remember. He came in Saturday maybe, and he came through the trailer. It was super nice. He could not have been nicer, honestly. I mean, I know like maybe I don't know. Like what's funny for me is like I thought he was like the coolest when I was in high school. And then like my things have like my tastes have changed, whatever, and I don't really follow his music
You don't
anymore.
say.
It's weird. But he couldn't have been nicer. He was so nice, and he was up for anything. And he, I saw someone say something about like, oh, this is what we need, like Snoop making fun of our athletes. He was not making fun of a single person. He was so impressed with everything. And I just felt like, you know, maybe if you don't understand who Snoop is, you don't, or whatever, you don't understand, well, what does he have to do at track? But it's about trying something new. We're always talking about innovation. And
Innovation.
he was into it, and he couldn't have been nicer. He couldn't have been more willing to do anything else. Like he just was great. So
One might call it a gizmo.
I
If you looked in
guess
the thesaurus. I was looking for other words for innovation the other day. No, I thought it was cool. I thought it was really fun, and I'm excited to see how that works out in Paris. I'm sure he'll be everywhere doing everything. What was the like group dynamics with everyone in the broadcast and like hanging out and like I mean, you got to chat with him and like throw to him on air, he threw to you, whatever way it was. Was there any communications before, or it was just like, this is where he's going to be, engage, good luck, go?
Kind of like that. Like I talked to him briefly the day before. They were like, "You're going to be calling the steeplechase, and this is Kara. She calls that," and he was like, "Steeplechase." Like he had no idea what it was. And then I just talked to him briefly that day. Like a lot of my coworkers, like got to do other things with him. Like Otto raced him, and Trey went out when he was doing the pole vault segment, and Sonia had like some other time with him. But I just, you know, I think also too, I was just like, I don't want to be like crazy. Like when I met him, of course I wanted to be like, let's get a pic. But I was like, I want to be cool. Meet
Don't
his
be the
level
weird
of cool.
person.
Like meet the level of cool right now.
Yeah,
Hold it together.
good for you.
Just, he gave me a hug and it was like, all right, you know?
Act
Um,
like you've been there,
yeah. I
right?
mean, my 17-year-old self was like, get a picture. But my almost 46-year-old self was like, play it cool. He's just
So
a normal person.
what Snoop music were you into? Like I
Bow,
because
wow, wow, yippee yo, yippee yay.
I went back because I was like, I remember having the original CDs or whatever, and 93, right? Like that's nine
Well, night, yeah.
Tuesdays, nine Tuesdays, the year for me to fuck up shit, right? So it's 93. And I went back and looked at the album, which, it's doggy style. And I
Yeah, oh
remember
yeah.
having like this like cover art that you're like, I don't think I'm supposed to have this.
Oh,
Like
definitely
this is,
not.
and then every single thing on there, I was like, yeah, I remember these songs, but like 93, I would have been 10, 11. Like,
I
how
know.
did I
It's
have
actually
this?
wildly inappropriate.
Yeah.
Laid back.
And then like he's become this like family man, which is
Well,
which
that
is really
is really
funny.
funny, isn't it? I think like his relationship with Martha Stewart, but I will say like
Also,
he
never
coaches football. He like helps out underprivileged youth. Like he does a lot of really good stuff. I don't know when the change came from what you're talking about, and which is also when I
Mr. Gin
liked him. And I'm like,
Induced.
that is so weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
Laid back, got my mind, like, but I don't know when the change happened. And I didn't follow him enough during that time. I honestly think a little bit of the high school thing was that was what was cool. So
Yeah.
then I was like, yeah, that's cool. I love that.
That hot moment. I feel like he was like really that album was the only one I remember. And then he did stuff with Dre and like
Mhm.
Death Row Records and things like that. But he was sort of like collaborative. It wasn't he didn't have in my memory, he didn't have like another album. You're like, oh yeah, that one.
No, it was just like that time. Remember, like Biggie
Yeah.
was big and all that kind of stuff. And I was, I did like all that stuff, which is funny because now I'm just like T Swift. I love her.
They need a collab. I feel like that would do really well.
That would do well. But I don't know if it's like his like Martha Stewart life. I don't know. But he's listen, I don't know what he was like 30 years ago, but he was very, very nice and very
Cleaned it up.
willing to do whatever NBC wanted him to do. And
Yeah.
USATF was like, when he came out and raced Otto and Wallace Spearman, they go, we have all the content we need for the year.
I
Thank
love
you
it. I
very
can only
much.
imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what an icon. Like, we remember him as kids, but then it's also like Noah Lyles is this younger dude who's like, oh shit, Snoop's here. This is so cool. Like,
Hmm.
he kind of covers the age ranges. So that's
He
pretty
really
neat.
does. Yeah.
So another reason that it makes sense for him to be involved and covers a lot of range for people thinking he's cool and tuning in.
Well, everyone can lose their minds. There's another special guest coming next week. So you can
Woo!
be angry about that. I don't think he's as big as Snoop, but I
Okay.
actually am more excited to meet him, I think.
Picture?
Just depends.
If the moment's right. All right.
Yeah.
All
Mostly
right.
because I can't say who it is, but he's been on stuff that Adam and Colt and I watch.
Okay.
And it's mostly like, I really want to get a picture for Adam and Colt, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
But again, I'm going to play it cool. I've been here before. I know Snoop. I called a race with Snoop.
Old news. I
So
love
we'll
it.
see what
I love
happens.
the chill. What else is going on? Anything else to just like briefly touch on before we just jam through these races?
I mean, we're doing a live pod here.
That's gonna be fun. We
You're
finally
about to head
announced
your way
it.
out here.
Yeah. Excited for that. I head out Friday and then I'll drive up so I get a nice relaxing time in my car. Get ready for
I
the
almost just
energy.
asked you where you were staying, and then I'm like,
Oh
dude,
yeah,
we're
no.
not talking privately right now.
I'll text you.
All these people show up at your hotel.
Yeah, 5 people,
No way.
maybe that many. Yeah, I'll text you that. I'll be there. We'll get some running in if you're feeling up for it. That'll be fun. Um, yeah, and some Brooks activations. That'll be great.
Hmm.
We're doing a group run out there in second half of the meet. Do you want to talk about anything you're excited about going forward before we look at the past?
I mean, I feel like the women's 1500 just got more interesting, just the way we just saw Cranny run.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not, we'll get into that. I just didn't expect her to challenge St. Pierre like she did. So I'm very interested in how that goes.
Does
People
that
doubling
bode
back.
well for Cranny, or is it more of a uh-oh for St. Pierre? Or is it both?
A little bit of both, I think. I mean, they ran so fast, but I'm like, is Pierre a little tired, or are we just seeing Cranny who she can be? You know,
Mhm.
and she finally gets to run the 15, which is an event she loves that she hasn't run the last few years because she was doing the 10-5, which is wild to me.
So, yeah, like, when you say that out loud, you're like, "Wow,
And she's
it's
like, I
insane."
actually don't like the 10,000. I actually want
Yeah.
to run the 1500, you know, and I'm good at the 5, so I'll run that. But anyway, so that just got more interesting to me. Women's steeple seems pretty,
It's wide open, huh?
yeah. Yeah. I feel like I mean, I do think that Wayment and Constein and Jennings look so effortless in that first round. But
Mhm.
Markovic looked good. And I just feel like they're not clearly ahead of everyone. We'll see what happens, how
Yeah.
much they were kind of holding back. But
I
I
agree with
mean,
that, and I feel
yeah.
like, obviously, we're seeing the trials do what the trials do, which is
Yes.
make things unpredictable and wild, and there's an extra level of stress, and so even if you're looking good, it's like you still have to deliver, and, one little fumble or one misplaced step can change your mentality and your mindset so quickly. So yeah, and a steeple is just a wildly unpredictable event anyway.
Totally. Then all the guys doubling back in the 5. I'm curious to
That'll
see
be
if
fun.
there's a couple guys that'll be fresh, does that help them? You know, that wasn't an easy 10 they ran. So, but I don't know. I'm excited for it all. It's going to be good. What about you? You'll be here to watch the women's 10?
Women's 10. Yes, I think that'll be a great race. Good mix of people and some being coming in fresh. I think Jess McLean, my favorite's coming out. Amanda Vestry's been running really well and kind
Mhm.
of like under the radar.
Well,
So
she was
there's
under the radar till that New York
she
race.
was,
But
yeah.
still, she's
Like,
still under the radar.
yeah, it's wild. It's kind of she's just young, I think. So it's
Yeah.
like she hasn't had that big stage moment, even though she kind of has, right? We just haven't noticed it yet. So those are two folks that I think will shake things up there. They just believe, like you can tell
Yeah.
they believe they belong. And then Valby coming back will be interesting. Uh, I won't get into that too much because we'll talk about the fives first.
All right.
So good stuff. Good stuff moving forward. Let's start with Monday. I guess it was Friday. Sorry. Friday's 10,000 meter final for the men. First final up. What'd you think?
I got to
How'd
tell
you
you
feel
that
about it?
it unfolded exactly how I thought it would, minus the Drew Hunter challenging Nico Young all the way down. That part
Yeah.
blew my mind. I thought it unfolded similarly to how I thought. I thought at some point Fisher will take it, Grant Fisher, and will stretch it out because he wants to break Kincaid's will. And that's
Hmm.
what he did. I mean, at the finish, even though he was clearly ahead, Kincaid was only second behind him.
Yeah.
I mean, he was rolling down that final 100. So that didn't really surprise me. And actually, I was impressed. I was like, he wanted this win. He knew what he needed to do and he got it done, you know?
That
Kincaid,
the NBC package you guys put together was perfect. Like
I,
it's slotted in so perfectly. It's like these are the kicks and this is how it's like not gone his way and what is he going to do to change it? And then it was just like boom right on cue.
Yeah, thank
It's
you.
great.
So I asked my producer to build that package, not because I wanted to make Grant feel bad when he watched
No.
the broadcast back, but I was just like, this guy is our best international 10K athlete, and yet he can't seem to figure out how to win a US title. So I had asked my producer to build that, and then he kept saying, "When do you want to show it? When do you want to show it?" And so I was actually proud of that. Thank you. And it just led to the storytelling of like he has to go soon, or he's leaving himself to end up being second or third again. So that I was happy for him to just like
Mhm.
run with determination, get that off. Like Woody Kincaid always impresses me. It's like he's not really around all season. Like, where is he? Is he fit? Is he healthy? And then he just always makes the team. Like he's
Yeah.
just so steady. I was super happy for Nico Young. You know, like he was fighting so hard those last few
Oh
laps. You
gosh,
could
yeah.
just see he was in pain and he held in there. But yeah, the Drew Hunter stuff blew my mind. And afterward, he was like, "Well, I wasn't making the Olympic team, but I just still wanted to be top 3." Like he knew he didn't have a ranking. It was only his second 10K. But to be totally fair, I hadn't put a ton of research into Drew Hunter in the 10,000 because
Right,
it's Drew
why?
Hunter in the
Right.
10,000.
Like, this doesn't make any sense. This is like a Hail Mary.
Yeah.
We'll just see what we can do at the trials because I qualified, right?
Yeah. Now I'm like,
Um,
damn, like could he make the team next year if he ran it more and tailored his training a little more to be 10K? I mean, he pressed Nico Young all like what were you thinking when you were watching that? Did you think he was going to get Nico?
I did. Yeah, I was like I was rooting for him just because it's such a cool story. It's like the underdog, and like I really like Nico too. Whatever, there was no bad winner in that scenario, but it was like, man, this guy's come back from so much. So it was like the yelling at your TV, like, "Let's go, motherfucker! Like you got this!" Like, just find a little, like it was edge of the seat stuff. And there was, I think that's an interesting thing with the broadcast. Like, the qualifier is not necessarily on the line, but like, how much do you talk about that, and how much are you like, this doesn't matter? Like, let's just pretend that this is for the spot, and then we can let it resolve itself later.
That's how we're approaching it because like for instance in the men's steeple, no one with a standard was in the top 3, right? So we're not going to sit there and say,
Well, this doesn't.
well,
Yeah.
looks like first is going to go, second's probably going to go, third is, we're just going to celebrate the top 3. And I mean, from a broadcast perspective, this sucks. It's frustrating. So like the standard has become so hard and the qualification process has become so complicated, but we're just so if he had gotten top 3, we would have said he didn't have the standard, but we would have said we'll have to wait and see.
We'll have
That's
to
kind of
wait.
like our line. We'll have to wait and see. The qualifying window ends on Sunday, and then on July 7th, it will be announced who makes it or not. And that's sort of the line we're going with because we're not going to pretend to know every little thing.
Oh, it's impossible,
And
right?
if he got third, like he should be celebrated.
Right.
That would be awesome, you know? But
I
from a
agree.
broadcast perspective, it turned out perfect
Yeah. Oh,
that
for
Nico
sure.
was
Yeah,
third.
it's like thrilling. It feels like the spot's on the line, but the guy that we can say like, yes, and he's going to
Yes.
Paris, like it
Yeah.
gets it done. So that was kind of satisfying. But yeah, I mean, I think that finish between those two is more fascinating for me than the front. It was like predictable up front. They're going to do what
Mhm.
they do. Um, I had heard Kincaid was a little nicked up, so I was wondering like how that would play out, and actually it came through as an autocorrect as knocked up, and I was like, huh. But it was corrected shortly after to nicked up, so I had a chuckle in the middle of the race with that. But yeah, he managed that well, and if it's true, you didn't really see too much weakness or struggle or like any
No. Were
compensating.
you surprised when Grant went that no one went with him?
um
I mean,
i
Nico kind of tried to go for a little bit, but
I think he made like such a definitive move. It was like, it's not a, I'm not responding. It's like I can't respond.
yeah.
Right. It was like I said, it was like the Kerr Whiteman school of tactics. Like, I'm going to move far enough out at a quick enough pace that it's not that you don't want to go with it yet, it's you can't, and I'm going to
Mhm.
hold it. Right. And
Yeah.
that was the question mark. Like, can he hold it?
Mhm.
And Kincaid put up a good fight, but he had enough. Got the jump.
Yeah.
All right. Next final.
Okay.
What did we have? Oh, do you want to do any sprints?
We definitely should just hit on Sha'Carri Richardson and her teammates all making the 100 team.
That was fun.
That was fun. They look so happy, and it was like Sha'Carri Richardson and TT Terry have been training together for a while, but I guess Melissa Jefferson just joined their group in the fall. And we were talking about this last night at dinner, like, why don't people just have their own coaches and train alone? And we were saying, well, you like being in a group oftentimes makes you better because you get pushed. And Melissa Jefferson wasn't even in the conversation a year ago, right? But she looked amazing, and they just seemed genuinely so excited for each other. I don't
What
know.
a cool thing,
Yeah.
right? Like, you're working together every day, and, like, that's kind of a nightmare final where you're obviously doing your own thing, you have your head down, and, like, what say you make the team, and then you see your teammate one teammate on the outside, and it's like, "This moment is so big, and I wanna celebrate, but I can't do it the right way because I feel so bad about this other
Right.
person." And so to have 3 go through, be able to celebrate in that big way, and not have to, like, kind of harness any of it in was really cool, and you could see that, like, you could see that expressed. Um, yeah, what a comeback story for Sha'Carri, right?
Yeah. You know, what's funny is at that final, I was like, please don't false start because our system is
Yeah.
so harsh as I think it should be. But of course, then last night, which we'll get into, something like that did happen. But I was like, please, like she's worked so hard over the last 3 years, and please just don't do anything stupid. The 100 is so stressful, Des.
Yeah.
It's
Well, it's that
so stressful.
her position is, like, the only thing you can do is screw it up, right? Like, she's the favorite, she's supposed to win, she's the world champion, she's running faster than ever, like, and she had, like, the few stumbles in the rounds, she
Yes,
didn't really look great, so you're like, "I don't know, she might, like, she might screw it up, like, please don't screw it up,"
I
and
know.
she came through, she delivered, it was cool.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So, that's exciting, and I think there's a lot about her comeback story that could be an episode in itself compared to what happened, last night.
Right.
Just there's going to be some parallels or
Yep.
complete different directions on the line,
Hmm.
but I won't go into that just yet. What about the men's 100?
We have to talk about it because we had people saying they paid attention just because we talked about Curly, who didn't take us up on our
I know.
on our outfit
She
offer.
well, look, like that Oakley singlet was swinging, like so much time lost. We could have got him the sweet suit. It's not Arrow. It's all right. It's
Okay,
all right.
so the 100 was Lyles, Noah Lyles, Kenny Benarek was second, and then Fred Curley was third. But the one of the big favorites, Christian Coleman, ended up fourth.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, Christian Coleman is one of the fastest people ever. He missed the last Olympics, not because of a doping ban, but a whereabouts failure. He missed 3 tests, and that counts as a sanction.
Hmm.
That counts as it doesn't count as like a doping offense, but it basically is punished the same way, which I don't
Yeah.
have a problem with that, by the way. But he never tested positive. But so he missed the last Olympics. And so he was out so fast. I don't know what happened. I mean, that's kind of his thing. That's why he's the world champion
60.
2 times now in the indoor 60. His
Right.
start is just like, boom, it's crazy. But then he got run down by 3 guys, and he'll be on the relay pool, obviously, but not in the rounds.
Yeah, I don't know. People are like karma. Well, you're a cheater, or whatever, like all that stuff. And anyone can have whatever opinion they want there. And I have opinions myself that I just won't even get into. But when they showed his face,
Oh,
like as a human, you set all that aside and you're just like crushed.
yeah.
Um, I think that's what's so interesting about the trials is we get the stories of the top 3 and the people who make the team, and like all that is you center on the joy, right? And then there's these, but every single race has like the Christian Coleman
Mhm.
where he's just like devastated, and we don't, like, obviously we don't want a ton of that, but it's such a deep story as well.
I know. I mean,
That's
he was the
hard.
world champ in 2019, so it's not like he's this slouch. And I mean, he looked so good throughout the rounds. And honestly, Fred Curley was the one that looked the most vulnerable. He
Yeah.
didn't look that great in the semi, or I'm sorry, in the preliminary round. In the semi, he looked okay. And he really fought to get that spot. And just because we went into this so deeply, he was wearing Nike spikes.
Yeah.
And so
He's like, I'm back,
I'm
baby.
back. Suck it. I
Back running
think, yeah,
fast.
like his body, and we've beat this horse to death, and I'm sure we'll do it again, poor horse. But those spikes work for him, and he's a different athlete in them, and he has to do that. But I wonder, like I was talking to some of my coworkers about this, like Nike's not going to give him a big fat contract. He's probably going to get like a bonus contract.
Right.
Like if you medal, you get some money or whatever. But I was happy for him because he gave up such a massive contract with Adidas because he knew, or sorry, with Asics because
Yeah.
he knew that those shoes weren't working. That's such a hard choice. And it was literally the kind of money that sets you up for life. So I was really happy to see him make that team.
I mean, I think that so gets to the heart of the shoe controversy, where it's like, do you want to be set up for life,
Right.
or do you want to be able to compete at the highest level and like feel like you're engaging and participating in the sport in the way you can? And I think that's why it's so hard. And that story, just like, it's got all of it, right? Like,
Yeah.
sorry, future kids,
Right.
dad wanted to run faster.
Right.
You
I mean,
know,
his
and like,
contract
you
is like
can't fault
in
him.
the millions, right? And he gave that up. And it's like, I don't think that is the perfect example of how shoe tech has affected our sport and athletes. It's like he had to give all that up because he wants to be the best athlete he can be while he's running, like while he has the time to. So I
And
would
like,
have been so sad if
yeah,
he didn't make that team.
a gold medal makes a lot of that easier, but you can't you can't eat a gold medal.
No, you can't.
I guess you could try. Like, like,
So they
that's not
announced he was
food on your
sponsored by
table.
Oakley. And
Mhm.
then the day after his final, it announced he was sponsored by Skims, he and Gabby
Yeah,
Thomas,
he'll
which
he'll get some nice
he'll get
opportunities.
something else. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll be out there, which is great.
But
And
probably
yeah,
not,
like, you
probably
gotta
not that
punch the
old money.
ticket, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
like, you have
Yeah.
to make the team,
You
otherwise
have to.
you're not on the Skims deal.
Like, talk about
Um,
feeling pressure. He must have
yeah.
felt so much pressure. And now he can, what the Olympics are 4 or 5 weeks away. Now he can, like, okay, center himself and focus on, leave the drama behind and focus on being the best he can be in Paris.
Yeah.
Good job,
That'll
Fred.
that'll be exciting.
Again,
Good
you can
job.
hit us up. Nobody asked us if you want to come on the pod. You're welcome to. What do you think of Noah's entrance?
I love Noah Lyles. Like, I have a love-hate with Noah Lyles. Like, he's just not for me in terms of, like, if we sat down together, I'd be like, I have nothing to talk to this kid about, but like, he does him and
Mm-hmm.
he's like just himself. And he had a great comment after I sent it to you and Chris, where it was like, if people think I'm corny, that's fine. I'm corny. I'm being myself, but I'm winning. And like, he
Yeah.
just owns it. So I think it was corny. I was a little bit worried. That I was like, dude, do not get DQ'd
I
while you're like
know.
fumbling with
By
your
your
card.
card.
Like, put it away. Do your job.
I
That
was,
like made me uncomfortable.
yeah. So if you didn't know, he had it's not Pokemon. It's like Yu-Gi-Oh or something.
The kids will let us know.
Okay.
Trust me.
It's a different thing.
Yeah.
And he had the card in his bib and it kept falling. Like he does this thing where he jumps and then the card was coming out. And it happened in the semi and in the final. And if I was a competitor, I'd be like, what the hell? We're holding up the race. Guys, relax, relax, so he can tuck his card back in.
Right. Like, no. If I were a competitor, I'm like, I would have just grabbed it and like been like, no, like thrown it, be like, done. Shit together.
And when he made his big entrance, like we were talking about it, he was acting like, and again, I'm not saying anything bad. He got in the head of everyone there.
Oh yeah.
But he
100%.
came in and hollering, ran 50 meters down the track, almost stumbled, like twisted his ankle a little bit. But when he walked back, you could see the other competitors were looking at him. They're already standing in their lane. And so he's a showman for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's thrilling. It's exciting. And like the biggest thing is he backs it up.
Yes.
Right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
you do all that and you're sixth, you're like, well, you just spent half your race jumping around and
If you
tinkering with
open
your
up a
chart.
briefcase to Snoop and it has a plain red uniform with a card and you
I
don't
wanted
win.
so much more from that uniform. If he had Anna Hall's uniform in that bag, I would have been like,
Yes.
oh yeah,
I was
like
like,
this is
come
sick.
on, Adidas. That
This
is
is
the
red.
simplest uniform. Look at how flat he's got his nails on. He's got pearls in his hair. Let's see something on that
Right.
kid.
Some innovation on that
Something.
kid.
We want to see some innovation on the kid.
Uh,
Oh, God, I'm so sleep deprived.
we've lost it. All right.
All right.
Well, it
Okay.
was fun. Great group in the 100. No
Yes.
questions about if they're qualified. They're going. And honestly, Coleman in the relay pool. Wasn't there a younger kid in that race as well?
Yeah, a high schooler finished 6th, I think. Miller, maybe. So he'll be in the relay pool
Miller.
as well.
That's pretty
And
cool.
and speaking of that, there were 400s as well.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, Kendall Ellis won the women's and Quincy Hall won the men's. But honestly, Quincy, is it Williams? 6th
It
place?
is Wilson. Quincy
Wilson.
Wilson.
Okay. Quincy Wilson stole the show. This little 16-year-old kid who physically is still little.
Yeah.
He doesn't even have his driver's license. He has his permit.
He's
And
like
he's
just a little older than Colt.
and he was so cute. I met his coach and he was like, he's the nicest kid. Like, he's so polite. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. He's
Yeah.
been raised right, all this stuff. But he was like, he's a killer on the track. So we see him in the first round. He won his heat.
Yeah.
Can you imagine winning the Olympic trials and a 16-year-old kid smoking your ass?
That'd be the worst. But it turns out he's like amazing and he
He's
did it to just
amazing.
about everyone, right?
Yes. Then he makes it to the final and he ends up getting 6th. So he absolutely is in the relay pool. He will probably run the first round of the 4x4. And then if they win a medal, he gets a medal. He could be an Olympic gold medalist this year.
Yeah, I'm super curious to see what happens with the 4x4 relay pool with Noah Lyles wanting to do the 4 golds. Like, what's the team? What does that look like? Where does he run? Does he, I'm fascinated by that. I hope Quincy Wilson gets it. I saw an interview where he was like, I might get called up. Like, I'm not going to go eat my ice cream yet. I might get called up to run in the big show. I'm like, dude, eat the fucking ice cream.
You're
Like,
getting
you
called up,
earned
but still
it.
eat the ice cream.
You earned it. You'll be ready. Go have the most fun ever. That's a cool.
No, they're putting him on that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know for sure, but like the attention he'll bring and the story and the experience, because obviously he's going to be around for a while. So he's going to go and get all that experience and see what it's like without the pressure of having to be there individually. The kid is so sweet. Quincy Wilson. Look him up.
Yeah, go look up some of his videos.
Yes, he did the cutest video with Alicia Montano. Like, when he talked to Lucy, he was very like, yes, sir. But he has personality. He's so adorable. He found out he was on the honor roll. He made honor roll while he was there.
That's so awesome.
So cute. They were like, what kind of car do you want to get? And he's like, I want to get a Tesla.
He's like, but he's got like swag. He's like,
oh, yeah.
Dude, I want one of those Teslas.
Yes.
Oh, the Teslas are sick. Like, and
yes,
he's
you're
like,
the one that sent me that video. He has so much personality and swag. Like,
swag's probably an old person word. I don't know. Quincy, tell us what the right word is, and we'll use it for you.
I mean, it was confusing because Quincy Hall was the winner, but all these people wearing Team Quincy shirts for Quincy Wilson. It's very confusing. That kid is going places, though.
Yeah, that was cool. That was a really great story to follow. And 4x4, I think we'll see him again.
I think we'll see him in the first round. That's my prediction.
Imagine being 16 and going through team processing.
Right?
Here's your opening ceremony skit. We're going to have to trim it down a little bit because they're all huge because they're made for adults.
Well, that's what's so crazy. Like, that kid is not done growing.
No.
Like, he's like definitely a late bloomer. He's small. He's not. It's like looking at Colt, he's not very he's muscular, but you know what I mean? Like, things are going to change on their body. He's going to get taller, and it's just fun to think about where that kid is going to go, but couldn't be cuter right now. That's the mom and me talking. He's adorable.
Totally. All right. We should go to the steeples. Let's get back on the distance train. What do you think about that?
Steeple.
Do you want to talk about the prelims or you want to head straight to the final?
Final. Let's talk final. That did not go how I thought it was going to go. I
No.
thought that Wilkinson would press, Rooks would follow with a lot of confidence, and so would Bohr. So everyone knows that Hillary Bohr broke it. Not everyone. Hillary Bohr broke his foot last year in Rabat in a Diamond League race, like broke his foot. Broke it in May, couldn't be on his foot until September. It's healed, but it still is very, very painful for him. And he had to relearn how to hurdle with a different lead leg because he couldn't land on his left foot anymore because it hurt so bad. I'm like, this is like such impressive stuff. So, and at the beginning of the year, he did 2 Diamond Leagues, and one of them he went and pushed off the barrier. And then when he was doing the water jump, then his foot was so sore he couldn't run for like a week. So then he went to the second Diamond League where he ran 8:13 under the Olympic standard and just hurdled the water jump the whole time.
Right.
So in the preliminary run, or the semi, excuse me, he hurdled it. He just hurdled it. He lost. I mean, you would see him losing momentum every time they went over that. So then he had said, I'm going to push off of it on the last 2 barriers because I know I can't afford to lose that time. And so I was so excited for him. I thought he would probably win. I'm like, he's run 8:13 without pushing off the barrier, like, and he knows how to win.
Mhm.
But I thought it was going to be like him, Rooks, and this Wilkinson guy, who I'm a huge fan of. I don't know why I said it like guy, because he's a Minnesotan, so obviously I'm obsessed. But he took the worst fall while we were in commercial 2-box. So we came back and showed it, but I mean, all the way on his back fall.
Yeah. Like a roll in
Yes.
the right.
It was
And
scary.
that's his like accommodating his foot, right?
Yeah.
Like
Mm-hmm.
I was so glad you got that story in because I was like, I didn't know how the timing would work out, and I just started telling it to Ryan because I'm like, this is such great information, and if you don't know that, you're like, how is this guy? He's a professional amateur hour barrel rolling in the water pit. Like, what's going on? Like, come on. And you got it in there, and it was great. I just think having that knowledge explains so much. I thought was such an interesting part of that race was that he like went for the top 3, and that was that moment where he's giving everything and he's pushing off and he's making those decisions to be in the top 3. And then ultimately James Corrigan, BYU, finishes 3rd, doesn't have the standard, does have time to chase, but Evan Yeager has the standard in 4th, has a possibility still that he might go. Where Bohr is like, I'm finishing top 3, I'm putting my foot on the line, I'm doing all the things. But he could have also just been really conservative and raced
Right.
for like the top guy with the standard. I'm glad he didn't.
I mean, we're not supposed to root for anyone, but on that last lap, I was just like, please let him make this. He deserves to make this. And we told the story, but not properly. And I was like, please make this, because then we'll have replays and I'll be able to like tell this story properly.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, again, we were talking about the joy and then the heartbreak. And like, you could just see that he had tried to close that gap too fast, and the wheels just started coming off, and it was just so bad. And then you could see Corrigan coming so hard, the BYU kid. And I mean, we should get into that too. Like there's talk like, should he get to go? And I'm like, yeah, he should get to go. But that's my opinion.
100%.
But Kenneth Rooks is on a new level. He's like, I didn't really get to story tell him much at all in the broadcast, but I had talked to Ed Eystone, his coach, and he was like, he is so meticulous. Like he thinks about every little thing that could possibly happen. He was like, he thought about, what if Wilkinson takes it? What if Bohr tries to kick past me? What if he had thought of every little thing that could possibly happen? And he just looked so good and dominant. And then in second was Matt Wilkinson from Minnesota. And that kid, we had built a graphic because he wears socks because his feet don't get wet.
Interesting.
He clears the entire 12-foot water thing. So we had built this thing where he's jumping and he gets all the way and his foot never touches water. I love his story. Like, didn't make the high school meet. Someone said he did, that he ran a 5,000. That's not the real high school meet. That's like a secondary meet.
Right.
He, ran D3 and then transferred to Minnesota. Just like one of those people that just kept betting on himself a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm going to keep pursuing it. And then this past year he was invited to join the Under Armour Dark Sky. And so his first time training up at altitude, he's obviously a responder. So, and he's just so good over that water barrier. I hope we get to show it at the Olympics, but so happy for him. Again, he doesn't have the standard either. Neither does Kenneth, to complicate everything, but their rankings are pretty good. But then James Corrigan just like hauling ass down that final 150, right?
There's a video of Ed Eyestone like
Yes.
seeing it before everyone else sees it. Like he knows where this guy's fitness is. He knows he's in position, and he sees like the extra pop in his step, and he's like, "Look at James!" And it's
Yes.
like no one else has seen it yet, but he just as a coach is like,
He
he's
sent me
going.
that
He's
video and
going.
he's like, I'm not cheering for Kenneth because I know he's going to make it.
But such a cool moment where a coach is like, I know what that guy can do. I've seen his workouts. This is everything. Like,
Yes, coming
walking in,
together.
like, boom.
I know. And so he PR'd by, I think, 7 seconds just to make the final, but obviously they knew it was coming. And so here's where the controversy, if there is any, lies. He almost gets punished for running in the NCAA, right? Like he's an NCAA athlete, but we have this system where we want it to be the top 3 across the line. And I know I was teammates with Evan Jager. He is such a great, great guy. His family is so awesome. If he goes to the Olympics, I'm not going to be mad about it. He's a
Right.
great guy. But I want to see James hit that standard. And I know he can. They were running 9-minute pace through 1K.
Yeah.
So they were
Yeah.
running like Courtney Frerichs would beat him, you know? And
Yeah.
then it picked up. So I'm thinking that I don't remember what he ran exactly, 8:20 maybe.
8:26.
8:26. So I'm thinking like if they just run it evenly,
Yeah.
you get
With
someone
some
in there to help
pacers.
him. Yeah, he could run that time. Now he has to run the time
Right.
because his ranking won't improve enough. He would have to,
Unless
I
he
was reading
much
somewhere.
faster
Yeah,
time.
he has to run 8:10 to improve his ranking. So he has to run under 8:15.0 to get in. And if he doesn't, then the consolation prize is Evan Jager's going. But I will say one thing. Evan's ranking so good is because of 2022 NACAC.
Thank you.
And I'm not sure how I feel about that. Like, this isn't a slam on Evan.
No. NCAA, pretty competitive. NACAC, I mean, they want it to
And
be
one is
competitive.
this year. This
One
one's
is
2 years ago.
yeah. And like, I no fault for playing the game,
No.
knowing the rules, the whole thing. But was James Corrigan thinking about his standard last year, or was he like, I gotta pass chemistry class?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, Spanish again? I don't know. Just saying.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, so this is where like I don't
He
like
seems
the
like a
ranking
smart
thing.
kid. He probably
He
has a
seems
better
like,
voice than
yeah, he's
that.
probably in engineering.
Yeah.
Or chemistry is good. I just feel like, oh man, I mean, good on Evan for going and running and
Yeah,
getting
fighting
that
the spots.
ranking back from 2022, but that's from 2 years ago, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's
So,
another thing that should be reconsidered with the whole rankings process and the times and yada yada. Which I don't know. I feel like at the end of this, I would hope that World Athletics goes, "Hey, we have some flaws in the system. Let's tighten it up. Let's make some adjustments."
you can hope. That's
But
cute.
you never know.
Okay, I guess we should explain what NACAC is.
Go for it. What? Give me
Okay.
the letters. We
It's
had some trouble with
the
this. Let's
North
be
America,
honest.
Central America, Caribbean Athletics Association. We don't know why it's called NACAC exactly. And not
I feel like
NACAC.
there's like a lot to it. There's like a lot more letters, right?
Yes. But
Thus
anyway,
our
because it's
giggles.
an area meet that includes all these different countries and territories, it has greater weight.
All right.
But there was no NACAC this year or something. I don't know. So anyway,
Just stop saying that back.
don't make me cry.
Okay.
So
I'm good. I'm an adult.
this is Evan played the game right, and he ran that in 2022. And because it's like, an area meet, it has more weight. So for instance, that's why the European Championships are before the Olympics this year. Normally they're after.
Oh,
They're
okay.
before this year because that meet is weighted heavier.
Things.
And so the rankings improves. It's so stupidly complicated.
So like they should pull together like last minute NACAC and be like, Corrigan, go win.
Well, that's the other thing. So he doesn't have the standard, and he's going to go chase it, but it has to be a meet that's already approved.
Right.
So he did find one, which is great. He's racing on Saturdays. We'll definitely update everybody on what happens there. But it's just so complicated.
It's
And I
too
feel like the kid
much.
deserves to go. He got the job done. And I really hope that he runs the time.
Yeah, this goes back to the NCAA thing too. Like, if they're playing with the same World Athletics rules, like here's the shoes, here's not the, like you solve a lot of that for your athletes.
Yeah.
And like, how many? I mean, I guess this is a big leap, but are athletes going to stop considering the NCAA system for their development because they're like, it doesn't really help me?
Maybe. I mean, there's a lot of collegiate
I mean,
athletes running well.
scholarships are nice, but also like if you know, like people come over from overseas. I want to run in the NCAA, improve so I can go professional.
Right.
Whatever. Like, I don't know. It's a ding on that for sure.
It is.
All right. Well, that was a disaster,
That was a
and I
total.
apologize. We
we,
rallied. We rallied.
we rallied. NACAC really
Um,
threw us off. Okay.
oof, who knew? All right, we got to get to the men's 1500 meter final. Yeah, well, yesterday was bananas.
It was bananas. It
You had a
was.
busy day, but I mean, all exciting stuff, right?
Yeah. I mean, the men's 15 was so good. So every day we call the meet and then we meet in the trailer at 8:30 at night and have our production meeting for the next day. And so on Sunday night, I was saying, I just want you guys to be aware because I have fought for Nagoose to get more attention for the last 2 years. And I said, I feel like Nagoose might lose to Hocker tomorrow. It's not a funeral. It just means we have two guys that
Yeah.
could contend for a medal at the Olympics.
What made
And
you think that?
it was so the first round when Cole Hocker ran 3:34 and made it look so easy. And then the interview after, he answered like two questions and he goes, "Okay, thank you." And he left. And you could see he had his protein shake and he said, "I got to go cool down." And I was like, this kid is so focused. And then
Child.
after the semi, he was kind of running in the pack, and the way he found that room to burst through on the inside and win, and then afterwards he's like, "Well, I wasn't trying to win today. It just sort of happened." And then same thing, he goes, "Thank you," and just left. And I was like, this kid, this man, he's a man now. We have forgotten how talented he is. He got 6 at the Olympics after an entire indoor outdoor season. Remember he beat Nagoose for that NCAA championship that year. He was the one who upset the reigning Olympic champion at the Olympic trials. This was just 3 years ago. And he's finally healthy. And so I just was telling NBC, I was like, if he beats him, this isn't a funeral. This is actually amazing because we'll
Story.
have two real contenders. So they said, what do you think is going to happen? I said, Nagoose is going to take it and Hocker's going to come by him with 50 to go. Well, that's not what happened.
Mm-mm.
I was wrong.
Pretty close.
No, tell us what actually happened.
I mean, he took it. How far out did he take it?
He took it like
Just
250
yeah,
and
which
he just smoked it.
which is super interesting when you think about what's happening on the world stage, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone's going earlier, and what a great way to practice that,
Mm-hmm.
right?
I
Like
mean, that's how the last two world titles were won, right? Going
Whiteman's going
at
to go with
200.
300,
Yep.
250. Like it's getting farther and farther out. So it was really cool to see him be like, no, I need to do this today.
And it was like devastating. I think it caught Nagoose off guard. And Nagoose, I thought maybe he'd close in on him, and he really didn't. I mean, Hocker was pulling away in that last 50.
Is Nagoose, does he lack the clutch gene?
I don't
Or did
know.
he just not have the speed? Because it seems like a crazy thing to say, but like he's always right
Right there.
behind, like he's the really good runner up.
I was thinking so much about this, and I think some of it is his stride length is so big. And I'm
Mm.
almost like he needs to work on just tightening it up and getting turnover in the final 50. But but I also don't think losing was the worst thing that could happen to the Goose because he's so like, I'm just happy to be here. I just want to have fun, this and that. But
Right.
you don't get to where he's been without wanting it because you have to push yourself in practice. You have to go to the well on those workouts. So I don't know that it's the worst thing ever that he lost because maybe that will ignite a little fire in him. But
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like a stride or what, but his stride is so big. And I'm like, that's hard to turn that over really quick.
Yeah.
you
Yeah, it's
know?
not punchy. It's more like
Yeah.
loping,
It's
right?
like
He's
his
covering a
gets
lot of ground,
longer.
but
Yeah.
right. Cole Hocker's punching the ground and like,
Yes.
um, yeah. I mean, it's not a knock. I just think I would just love to like if he had been pissed off after the race, I'd been like, okay,
I think he was in his
yeah,
own way. Cause like in the interview
just
afterwards, he
didn't
was
quite,
like, yeah, I'm going. It's great. But he wasn't like his normal laugh. I mean, he was
yeah.
smiling, but I just felt like,
There was
oh,
something
he's
there that you're
upset.
like,
He's upset. This
yeah,
is good. This is good. But what a race out of Hobbs Kessler. Good job, Hobbs.
so happy for
I
him.
am so happy.
What a like trajectory and like the learning curve there. That I wrote down a note. It's just for my top 5, but I'm going to put it in here. There's so many things I can go to the top. Indoor season. Everyone sleeps on indoor. It's like, I don't want to go. Like, it's too much work. Injury, yada, yada. Everyone who had a really productive indoor season, like tactically, has been looking great. And I think Hobbs learned so much from going and competing at World Indoors, and you're seeing it play out. Like, this kid, like, just absorbs lessons and converts them into like something productive right away. So we've seen 3 years, so much growth. I was on edge as he was coming down that final straight. I was like, I don't know, dude, you got to get on your horse. Like, let's go. Uh, but he got it done. Good for him.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's like he knew his weakness was tactical racing. And all season starting indoor, all he's done is like put himself in situations where he had to be tactical. And you know what is interesting is we always say, oh, indoor doesn't translate to outdoor, but all 3 of the men that made our 1500 meter team won a medal at the Indoor World Championships this year.
Mm-hmm.
Nugus got silver in the 3000, and Hocker and Kessler went 2-3 in the 15.
Yeah,
So
it's great. I think they're just like a tiny tier above the rest, you know?
mhm.
And like everyone chasing, there's so many PBs in that race.
I mean,
Um,
everyone PB'd in like the top 9 or 10 except for Yared.
yeah, it's wild. One thing that's been coming up in some of these post race interviews, and I think it's the same journalist. I don't know who it is because it's like obviously the camera's the other direction, but they keep bringing up these stats like, well, the time you ran would have placed,
Oh my God.
the time you ran is the fastest. The time you ran, it's like, yo, dude, like this is a different,
Different
the
era.
times do not matter.
No. I
The
think
mark starts here, right?
I have a theory that Timothy Chariot, when he won world champs in 2019, he just took it from the gun
Mm-hmm.
and like went crazy. And no one had ever run a final like that. I mean, I don't know. Not since I've been racing, right? It's the
Yeah.
15 has
Like,
always
why
been so
would you? It's like,
tactical. Yeah.
yeah.
And like you're just being the pacemaker for everybody. But he just ran it out of everyone. And then in 2021, I think that Ingebrigtsen was so ready for that. And then he was able to run it out of Chariot. Like it wasn't like a kick in the last 200. It was like a drive from further out.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's become the norm now. It's at these championship races. And it was not like that when I was racing. When I was racing, it was the bell. Everyone's there. You're worried someone's going to fall, right? There's
Yeah.
spread 7 across the track. I mean, think about Rio when Centro
Right.
won.
Perfect
So I
example.
just feel like it has changed. And every time a reporter goes, can you believe 335 didn't make the final? I'm like, yes, yes. How many years are we going to say this? Yes, I can believe it.
Yeah.
Also, not trying to be a dick, but 335 is not the same 335 that you have in your mind from 10 years ago.
Right.
It's
I
not,
think
it's
that's
not
the
the same
thing. It's like,
thing.
time to move on, right?
Yes.
Like, stop looking at those numbers and being wowed because it's a different
It's a
era.
different era. Yes, they're running it differently. Everything about it's different.
Yeah.
So
It just makes me chuckle because I don't know who the person is, and maybe they'll yell at us or something. But
that's
like
fine.
every interview, I laugh. I'm like, you're gonna ask that again? You're gonna put
Right.
it in that
We get
context?
it. The
Like,
game
yeah,
has
they are very
changed.
fast. Anyhow,
Yeah. Well, that was an awesome race. I mean, that was so
really great race.
exciting.
Lived up to the hype. We have 3 really great guys going that I think
Yeah.
should be thinking about finals and should be thinking about medals.
I mean, there's no reason why we couldn't have 3 Americans in that final. And then think of the odds. If you got 12 guys in the final, 3 medals, your odds are decent, you know?
Yeah, I think Hobbs is going to go in so mature. Like if he had made it somehow last time, it's like experience. He's got such a great group around him. Like now with Hopple, who's been there, Willis, who's been there. I think they're just going to keep him like super level. And he seems like
I
a
think he'll
very
do
clear-headed
really
kid.
well, but I do
Yeah.
think he's probably thinking LA will be his
Yeah.
best bet. I mean, I saw an interview. He said, "Well, I don't really want to lead. I'll lead if I have to, but I'm not 1 to 2%. It costs 1 to 2." This is where I'm like, I'm hearing Nick Willis come out of his mouth. He's like, it weighs. It's 1 to 2 to 3% harder to lead, and I'm not 1 to 2% better than everyone else right now. And I'm like that sort of like tactical thinking to that. I mean, that was Nick Willis. He was just so brilliant at all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I think he is going to go, and I think he's going to do really well because I don't think he expects himself to. I mean, of course, if he can, he's going to nab a medal. But I think this will be a super hard effort. I hope he makes the final, but I think he could be a real threat in 4 years' time.
I hope he is thinking long game too. Like obviously not right now,
Right,
but
right.
just like his post-race interview where he talked about the weight that was lifted by making this team. Like, hey, when I signed pro as a high schooler, like I knew the expectation,
Yeah.
and like I had to make this team, and it was always about being on an Olympic team. And yeah, I think it more time to mature and deal with that pressure. But it's pretty impressive how well he's handling it at the age he is.
Yeah.
It's wild. Um, okay, men's 15, a great race,
Check.
great team.
Good job.
Women's 5,000, straight to the final. Fire
Wow.
away.
Valby is good.
Yeah. What a, like, look, in the prelims, St. Pierre just like, if you could be running the last 100 with your middle fingers in the air, like, that's basically what that was. It was like, I'm the best, guns a-blazing, like,
Mhm.
F you all, right? Like, it was such a flex. It was so unnecessary. And then in the final, like, I just feel like Valby got right back on her horse. It was like, no, I'm gonna make a run for this, and I don't care if anyone's gonna help or not. Like, I can handle it. I'm gonna do what I do. And she did a great job. I think she's not quite at the level as the three who made the team, obviously, but she's significantly younger and more inexperienced.
I mean, she went out there and ran the Olympic standard with no help. She went straight to the front. She was like, I'm
The
not,
level of frustration where she's just
she
like
must
I
have just,
guess I
yeah,
gotta do
like she
it.
waited like 100 meters and she was like, bitches,
No one's doing
no one's
anything.
going to
Yeah.
do it. And they were all too happy to have her lead, right?
100%.
But she had run 14:52.7. The Olympic standard's 14:52 flat. And she ended up running 14:51 something. I was just really impressed by the ability, A, to just lock into pace like that.
Yeah.
Know that everyone is just fucking using you and being like, this is my ticket to Paris. I just have to get this done. And when they passed her, I actually was impressed. She didn't speed up necessarily, but she did not falter and go, oh man, I knew this was going to happen. She just kept on her pace, kept hammering away.
A
Yeah,
lot of
I mean,
gumption. Like you could
yeah.
just like do the I'm sorry for myself,
Mm-hmm.
like run it in.
Yeah.
But you never saw that. She never like she didn't throw in the towel. She fought the whole way. And I mean, the top three ran 244, 240 to between 244 and 248 for the last kilometer.
Wow.
Like that's just hard to
Right.
contend with. She went 255, so she picked it up as well, just like doesn't have the chops.
Right.
It's good running.
No, she is good. And if there was any question about it, the answer is yes, she's the real thing. Okay. And think about like this year she has been so dominant, but it's the first year she's been healthy the whole year. So I'm like, think about what she could do next year or the year after that. Like that's the time where you actually can develop the kick because the strength is like it stacks, each year stacks on each other, right? So yeah, I couldn't be more impressed with how she ran that. And I gotta say, I think she might still be going to Paris.
There's a great chance there. So Ellie
I
St. Pierre wins, Elise Cranny's second, Carisha Schweizer's third. Great team, but what's the scheduling look like? Because some of these women are going to
Schedule's a
double or
little
not,
different in
right?
Paris. So today they have 2 rest days between that 5 final and the 15 semi. At the Olympics, there's no rest day in between. You go straight into that preliminary round of the 1500. And I don't know for sure, but just based on things that St. Pierre has said, she believes that the 1500 is her best event right now. I don't know that she's going to want to run 2 rounds of the 5,000 that are going to be harder than what she just had to do here before, without having a good little break to rest her legs before the 15 starts. So Parker Valby might have just made her own destiny by getting that standard yesterday.
Getting a standard, right. Yep.
But let's talk about the finish. Were you surprised at how close it was?
Totally. I
was
thought
too.
St. Pierre was going to do the same thing. Like,
Me
yeah,
too.
I'm out of here. And Cranny was like, no. I grabbed her by the
I
back of
mean,
the jersey.
that was
She didn't.
crazy.
The response was insane. Yeah.
It was crazy. I thought that, Cranny or St. Pierre looked so good still with 300 to go. I was like, she is not all out yet. She's just not.
No.
And then I think she kept like picking it up a little bit. And Cranny was like, hi, my name's Elise Cranny and I'm a kicker.
Still here.
It was crazy all the way down the home stretch, like 0.02 of a second separated them. And St. Pierre threw her arms up in victory. And I'm like, how do you know you won?
She said she didn't. She said she was grabbing the tape, like, because the tape was there.
Oh.
I don't know, man. To me, it looked like she was getting a little elbowy and like, I'll throw my arms out in like a let me guard my space, but also push my chest out and win. Yeah, I mean, she drifted a lot.
She did drift a lot, which is allowed.
Yeah.
It's totally allowed. It's part of the game, but she did drift. She drifted up. I mean, she had Cranny in lane 3.
3, right.
Yeah.
Well played.
They were both so good. I mean, like Cranny actually passed St. Pierre a little bit and St. Pierre came back. I was just like, this is rare that we see this close of a finish.
What's their relationship like?
I don't know that they've overlapped that much, right? Because St. Pierre's been focused on the 15 and Cranny's been running the 5 and the 10. Right. So I don't know.
Just curious. A little fiery, if it was a little personal. I mean, whatever. You race every race, like it's personal when you're on the track.
Yeah. I mean, St. Pierre's like, I want to win every single race I'm in, whether it's a semi, prelim, I don't care. And I'm sure Cranny's the same way. And there's a lot of money on the line. Olympic trials champion, your contract is better than qualifying for the Olympics.
Significant.
But I thought it was a good, the pace. They ended up at 14:40. They took down Regina Jacobs' dirty ass record from 2000. Thank you very much, both of you.
Good times, these kids.
I mean, think about that. I was in that race when Regina Jacobs that was the American record at the time, and she set it in the trials in 2000. But I was so happy to see that time go. But they're going to be racing. So I feel like, I don't know what I'm saying here. I got excited, like, oh, they have it. Like they can kick hard. But then I was thinking, dang it, they're going to be running like 14:0 at the Olympics.
Oh, yeah.
But maybe they won't. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Beatrice Gibet is probably going to take it out hard.
Don't go there. We're not even going there yet.
Okay.
Let's be happy about this. I think
it was exciting. It was like,
I think a rivalry was born, right? Like they don't match up much, and that was like as close as it gets. And
they're only a year apart.
A little fire in the belly for both of them after that. Like, no, I own this event.
Yeah, I know they both sort of do the 5K begrudgingly, so maybe now they'll like it more. I don't know. But they're only a year apart. We could definitely see this through another Olympic cycle, these two going head to head. It was such a good race. And I was really happy for Carissa Schweizer, who's had to come back from so much, lost her training partners this year. A couple of her teammates left the team, has had 2 surgeries. And she looked good. And I think she's only going to get better moving forward.
Yeah. Agree. That was fun to see her come back. And she did talk pretty enthusiastically leading into it. Like, I feel better than ever. I feel like I'm ready. But there's, I'm sure, a little bit of rust to be busted.
Yeah.
Just getting back into these higher level competitions. So I'm sure she'll do some work between now and Paris and be right there with those two. Like she has in the past, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. There's only one race left to talk about.
Women's
go right in.
800. Well, you called it.
I did.
You called Nia Akins. I said, I don't know. She looked a little tired in the rounds. I'm hoping it's just strategy. You were like, nah, she's got it.
To me, it looked like she was always just like holding back just a touch. Like she was like, okay, this is good. She did say in an interview that she was like, no, I lost that semi. Like Allie Wilson was just really strong. She beat me because she was better that day. But I didn't see that. And prior to me, it just looked like she was like, all right, I've done enough. I'm in my space. Perfect. Like check the box and move on to the next round. Survive in advance. So I think she's been great the last couple years. I feel like we
Mm-hmm.
called her out pretty early on before she's had this like global success. But she just keeps getting better, like little gains, little gains, little gains, and you can see her piecing things together from her experience, and it's just all coming together at the right time. So that's exciting.
Yeah, she ran awesome. I mean, obviously, we have to talk about the fact that a thing Mo fell.
Yeah, we probably should. What if we just didn't?
Yeah, just act like that didn't happen.
Right? Was she in the race?
The greatest American 800
Terrible.
meter runner of
Yeah.
all time fell. We're not going to mention that. The reigning Olympic champion. I mean, that was a heartbreaker. And it was stunning. And it was just a reminder of uh, while our trials are amazing, they're also very, very harsh. We watched the replay over and over and over again. I'm not an official, but to us, it did not look like she was impeded. It looked like she cut over a little quick. But I mean, I'm not going to claim that I know exactly what happened because I'm not an official. I'm not a referee to break that down. But just from my eyes watching it a million times, like I'm sure everyone did, I just think it was an unfortunate situation.
Yeah. I mean, I think she's kind of been flirting with it for a while too, right? Like when she burst on the scene as a collegiate, she was so far ahead of everyone. You're like, well, she doesn't have to worry about tactics. And then her first year going to the games, you're like, how's she going to slot in? Like her stride's
It's
so
so
it's
long.
massive,
It's
right?
part
So
of why she's good. Yeah.
right, she has to be a little bit more aware. And I remember like thinking this or tweeting this during the last games. Like the only thing that's concerning for me about her is how's she going to do in a group with her stride length, but we never saw her in a group because she was just that much better than everyone else. And I think she got ragged on quite a bit for like leaving space in lane one and kind of drifting on the outside. But it's like that's where she could have room and like be free.
Mm-hmm.
So she's a little rusty coming into these trials. She hasn't raced that much. She has a high hamstring injury. And like you just saw in the prelims, like she would tuck in. You're like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
think you can do that. Like,
Right.
I don't
Right.
think that's an option for you. That was my take on it.
I agree. And I mean, I know she's been injured this year, but in general, she doesn't race that much. And I think she like I wish she raced more. Even last year at the US champs, she ran the 1500 and she barely got outleaned by Nikki Hiltz. And I thought if she had one more 1500 in her legs before coming here, she would have won that, right? There's something that comes from racing, learning strategy, learning your positioning. Where does my body fit? Where doesn't it fit? She has a very unique physique in which her stride is so long. That's why Nugus needs to be in front, right? Because it's hard for him to move out and around people without getting tripped up. It's a little bit similar to that. And we watched it so many times, and I think she cut in a little quick. But it seems like, and granted, like we are just so pretending like we know right now, but it seems like with her stride, she needs to be on the outside or in the front or in the
Or in
very
the very
back.
back.
Yeah. But the
Right.
trying to run in the pack, it's just her stride is just too long.
Right. Or in the 400, right? Like you're in a lane. Like,
Right.
okay, that's fine. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think she gets a lot of heat for not racing enough, and there's obviously something to that. Um, but I don't know. I don't want to be critical on someone who's won a gold medal, set an American record,
Yeah.
kind
I
of
mean,
has it
that's fair.
figured out.
That's
Right?
fair.
She's got it figured out. And like let's like if she's on when she's at her best, when she's really on, when we like to race, right? You don't just like she doesn't seem like someone who's ever going to race into shape. Like that doesn't seem like Bobby Kersey. It doesn't seem like something she likes. But when she's on and she's fit, like she's not meshing in anyways.
Well, remember she almost went down in Budapest last year.
Yeah.
I can't remember which round it was. She almost went down in almost the exact same place on the track. And she
Yeah.
kind of had this awkward step out
Oh,
and
yeah.
then she stepped back in. I mean, I just think that sometimes in the 800, that is an event you need to race
Yeah.
because tactics are so much a part of it. But I mean, I'm not going to criticize her. Just what you said. She's more accomplished than I'll ever be. She literally is the greatest 800-meter runner America's ever produced or ever seen.
Like
And
Diamond League circuit. She's got to be following the circuit.
yeah, just jump in a couple. I don't know. Who knows? But I
Yeah.
know she was injured this year. And I have to say, like, her emotion after it was so hard to
It's hard.
watch.
Yeah. Well, that was my initial thought too. Like, she could have stepped off the track.
Yes.
Like, I step off the track on the backstretch, you hop over the rail, and like you're like, "Hey, where's my family?" Like,
Yep.
I'll come back in 4 years.
Mhm.
Um, in you have the package in the intro. It's all about her. The cameras are on her. She knows that that entire moment like is about her, and like the only thing that we're seeing is her coming in struggling and leaving down the tunnel. Man, that's a lot
And
to know
even
that all eyes are on you in that moment.
and even to add when she popped up, she went for it.
Yeah.
I mean, she
Yeah.
tried to reel them back in. And I think with like 300 to go, she realized there's just no way. Like, I just don't have enough left. But she didn't just stand up and start jogging. She got up and was like, just took off. I
Oh,
mean, I
yeah.
can't imagine what was going through her head. It's just such a nightmare. And then the NBC coverage showed her family after. I mean, it's just such a nightmare situation. But I think that her coach protested. It was rejected. I did wonder if Sage Hurta-Klecker maybe had an argument there because she,
Yeah.
you know, a
She was
thing
probably
mo
impacted the most,
yeah, like, she
right?
fell right in front of her, she jumped up, she stepped awkwardly, on the inside of the track, and she was moving up that whole time. I think she ended up, I can't remember, maybe 6th, but she was moving up that whole I mean, she was significantly behind.
She was 5th.
She was
Yeah.
5th? Oh, man. Because she was so far behind when they came down the home stretch for the first time, and she caught, what, 3 people? I mean, that part of it is that's just racing, and then the other thing is, like, you can't rerun that race. You
No.
can't. You're gonna tell Nia and Allie and Juliet that they didn't earn it? Give me a
Right.
break,
That's not gonna
right?
work.
It's just part of the absolute heartache, but I do feel for Sage. She fell at the last Olympic trials, she fell and broke her
Early,
wrist,
yeah.
and then now this happens, and, we were talking about this too with the thing as well. It's one thing if you run your race and you just don't make it and that hurts and it's awful, but to not have the chance, like a thing fell and didn't have the chance to really run her race, and Sage's race was absolutely impeded in my opinion. And then you're just left kind of hollow.
Yeah, it's like the not knowing,
A lot
right?
of what
How do
ifs.
I
Yeah.
stack up?
Yeah.
Don't get to know. Um, yeah, I mean, it's such a bummer of a story, but it's part of the game. It'll be fascinating to see if she has any room to like put herself in a relay contention spot. I don't know how that gets picked or if
It is
it's
discretionary. We
yeah,
were talking about this a little bit last night, but she hasn't shown fitness this year.
right.
So I don't know. It's not
It's a hard
It's
sell.
hard. Yeah, and the other thing I would just say is that that stadium was silent. And it's not a thing most fault at all, but I felt bad for Nia and Allie and Juliet because it was like,
That's their
Al
dreams coming
that's
true.
their dream. And I when we were watching the replay, Allie Wilson was in 4th coming off the curve, and you could see she was like, that's the Olympics right there. And
Yeah.
she just dug deeper than she's ever dug in her life. She got the Olympic standard in that race. So did Juliet, actually.
Mhm.
Um, And like that, what a freaking race. And the way Nia ran so authoritatively, like so far in front. And that should have been like, wah, like all the other races of the night and of the meet. But instead, I mean, you could have heard a pin drop in there. And that's no one's fault. I just
Yeah.
felt like, oh man, their big moment is like, I don't
It's got
know.
a little extra something to
Yeah.
it, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's super important for us to just talk about the top 3. Like, obviously, we've talked to Nia a lot. I think one more thing I would add on her story is she was in the final as a very young pro in 2021, gets clipped, Baya Thing Mo is down, and that's her Olympic trials experience, right? And
Mhm.
she had this moment after the race where she was like, I want to protest. And, this is a big Nike facility. It's the big Nike athlete. It's kind of one of the most exciting stories of the trials. And she had to decide, like, do I protest or not? Like, what is going to happen? Is anything going to happen? And like, that was super hard for her. Um, I can't remember if she actually did the protest or not. They might have done the initial one and then it was like, you can appeal or whatever and just left it. I'm just guessing on that. Um, but I do think she talked about this in a post race interview where she's like, if that fall hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here. Like,
Mm.
I took so much from that moment. And she is someone who is very quiet. She's really contemplative, and you can see it in her interview. She didn't have a lot to say. She was like, I don't know.
Mhm.
But in a couple days, like, she'll have really great thoughts that are going to help her move forward, and like they're going to be super instructional, and I think that's what she did with that moment. And so I'm happy that it's kind of full circle, right? Like, it
Mhm.
sucks that it happened to someone else, but she's also shown that there's a ton of opportunity if you want it. Like, you
Yeah.
can do a lot with that kind of story. So bravo to her for the full
Yeah,
circle.
for sure.
um Really, really cool.
Now, I just want to shout out Juliet Whitaker because we've never met, but I follow her on Instagram and I don't follow that many college athletes. I just think she's cool. And she just finished her sophomore year of
It's
college.
crazy. It's
Sophomore year of
crazy.
college. And she just made an Olympic team. So,
Yeah.
and Allie Wilson came through when it mattered. It's a great team. It's a really
Mm-hmm.
good team. Remember, Nia was sixth at Worlds last year. She's not like some slouch, you know? She
Right.
knows how to do it at the international level. So it's an awesome team. We kept saying it was wide open. It was. I mean, Kate Grace looked like unbeatable in that semi.
That's why it happened, right? Because you had 9 women who were all really well matched up,
Yes.
and the track in the 800 is fighting for space and positioning.
Yes.
Like, you just created a powder keg. Of course,
Yeah.
something blew up.
Right. Totally. Okay.
um, Crazy. All right. Well, that's the races.
All
We've
right.
we buried the news here because we do have a top five.
Okay. No, we
You
have a
ready for
super
this?
five.
You have a super five.
I'm so
Wow.
tired.
She's tired of it. We're going to segment into this podcast into 15 episodes
Yeah.
and slow release them on the internet. We This is a super episode, and it's super because the trials have been so great, so many super races, but also Kara Goucher. Super news: we have a new sponsor for our top super five.
Super
You want to say
five.
the name?
Super coffee. Pew pew
Boo!
pew. We're super
Uh,
excited about this. Now we get to
yeah.
toggle between our a top five and our super five.
So yeah, Super Coffee is a family company. The three brothers, the DeCicios, I believe I'm saying that right. Jimmy, Jake, and Jordan. They had those parents that were like, let's make it complicated. Really cool guys. I know them from some friends. They're in the Austin area and they're really into fitness and health and wellness. And um, coffee is a big part of their day, being caffeinated, but also they've added protein to their coffee, which is kind of cool. So there's 10 grams, I believe, in a lot of these drinks. They have the lattes. I've been drinking the double shot of espresso and cream. So that's fantastic. There's protein in there. They've also taken out the sugar. So you have all your to go coffees like Starbucks, Dunkin', whatever. They're all super high in sugar. These guys have zero sugar added. They do have sweetener of some sort. They're super, like, if you like sweet coffees, these are your jam.
These are your jam. Yeah.
These are
I
your
don't
jam.
have one with me right now, but I have
That's
had it,
okay.
obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that I really like about it is it's real coffee with the protein added, not the other way around. Usually it's like coffee flavoring.
Mm-hmm.
It's real coffee.
Yeah. So I've got a big stack of these in the house and I've been drinking a lot. And you need some in Eugene because you're on like this super tour of commentating and talking about all things running.
I know. I really wish I had one right now. I'm not going to lie.
So we'll do a super five today. And we're going to put a link in the bio if you want to buy some. Use our link so they know, you heard about them from us, or you can use code nobody asked. Don't use the us. You can use that on Amazon. Add the super coffee to your cart, add the code, and you'll save 20% and make us look great. So thank you, Super Coffee, for
20% off. I mean, that's a big deal.
yeah. Thanks for
Yeah.
joining us and for sponsoring the Super Five. Let's get into the Super
Super
Five.
5. Okay.
Five.
Do you
Wow,
want to
that
go
was a
first?
girls' five ever.
Girls 5 of it. Gonna be dun, dun,
Yeah,
dun,
let's
dun,
do
dun.
it. I wrote 2 down and I've said both of them already, but I will go back into one. Top 5, Super 5, indoor season. Giving a shout out to the indoor season. It's the stuff we do in the winter. It's the stuff we do in what feels like the off season. It's the things we don't want to do because they're hard that we're seeing pay off now. And a
Yep.
lot of those things kind of go with indoor season. We're like, this is hard. I don't like it. I have the track hack. But you're seeing that pay off for the guys who took the chance on it. So bravo to indoor season.
Indoor. Good one. Okay, I'm going to go with Emma Coburn,
Hey.
who broke her foot, can't be here at the trials to race, although she's already running, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, pretty well, right?
Yes.
Like she's doing workouts and stuff.
Yeah, she's doing some 200s and she's done some 400s. But she came into the booth yesterday to help call the prelims. No training, no instruction, just literally the show's
Go.
already live. We're already an hour into the show. Just throw a headset on her, and she absolutely crushed it.
She did.
And of all the events I call, I'm the most self-conscious about the steeple because it's the one event I never ran. And she just offered amazing insight. And I thought she did such a good job. Like literally no training, nothing, no conversation ahead of time, just threw her in there. So
Put the headphones on.
yeah,
Go.
like she did such a great job. She was natural. She was super relaxed. And she offered so much great insight. So Emma Coburn crushing
Love
it
it.
in the booth.
In the booth. That's a hard role. I almost feel like if you get no instructions, you're better off. And then you like realize there's like a lot more formatting around it and you're like, oh, this got hard.
She only got one note from our research person because she was calling everyone by their first name and she was like, last names too. And I was like, we should just told her that before.
Right.
We didn't tell her that. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the stuff you almost don't even want to know because then you're like, you say the first name and you're like, oh, but I mean,
Yeah.
and you like correct and you tense up. So I thought it was great. And
No,
whatever.
she did a
who
great
cares if
job.
she's the first name. Yeah, I thought she did fantastic. I have another one. This is good. I went higher up on my list here. I'm gonna go with Candace Hill. Candace Hill. That's a blast from the past, but still
High school
young person in the game, right? High school phenom. You're absolutely right. In the 100-meter finals, I think she's signed a deal when she was like just out of high school. It was a 10-year deal with ASICS. It was like bananas money. And I think that the moment and the weight and the pressure of that and all that came with the pro contract, along with just like growing up probably and like injuries and all the other things, she kind of disappeared from the scene and it felt like she didn't fulfill her potential. So it was nice to see her in the 100-meter final. She looked really strong. What a tough team to make, but seeing her in there and competing and knocking heads, like I thought that was a cool story. Look her up, go find her on socials, support her because I think she'll be back. I think she'll be doing some more things.
I was so excited to see her make the final. I was hoping she'd make the team, but it's the first time she's made the final in a very, very long time, right? So I was happy to see her back. She's just so sweet. I mean, she's probably, I can't remember when I realized who she was. I started following her on Twitter back when Twitter was like a big thing. It's probably been a while, but to see her stick with it, I think is really inspiring too.
Agree.
Yeah. Candace,
all right.
Good job.
Good job,
okay.
Candace. You're up.
I'm going to stick with the steeple theme. I'm just going to say Matt Wilkinson.
Oh, you love it.
Such a good story for me. Like, grew up in Minnesota, just a hardworking guy, like just the epitome of Minnesota for me. Taking a chance on himself. Like a few weeks ago, he was the first American at the LA Grand Prix and was like, I mean, if I run like this, I could make the team, and it just like he spoke it into existence, and seeing the way when he ran that semi, I was like, this guy's legit. His form is absolutely beautiful. The only thing I was nervous about was he's never been in a position where people are like, yeah, you could do that,
Right.
And that can change things.
That.
Yeah.
the
and that
next
can
step.
change things. But he still just was chill and enjoyed it and got second at the Olympic trials, and his ranking is high. And it was kind of funny because he was like celebrating, and then a reporter was like, well, you don't have the standard. Do you think you're going? And he's like, oh man. I mean,
Hadn't thought about that.
like even from like, oh, like, oh, I hadn't even, I'm pretty sure it's high enough. So
Still.
yeah, it was really, really cool to see, when someone like, when you're coming up, like, maybe I could do that. And then when you finally believe it, it's just so cool. It's cool to see him make that team.
Yeah, I thought the reaction photo of him at the finish line, just like, like surprise, shock, awe, happiness, all packed into one
Yeah,
photo is pretty phenomenal. I think that's on his social, which I think is Silky Wilkie,
it is Silky Wilkie.
and that in itself deserves to be in the Super Five. Silky Wilkie, intro that guy to Snoop, make some magic happen. Silky Wilkie,
That's right.
love it. What do we have? We have one left.
One left.
Okay. I want to go with the event that doesn't get enough love, in my opinion. And maybe we can bring Trey on to hash this out. But Heath Baldwin, decathlon champion, Michigan State student, just graduated, I believe, winning the decathlon. Just looks super cool doing it. I think he's going to go and turn some heads at the games. But coming out of the collegiate season and getting that done is phenomenal. My understanding is his coach let him skip NCAAs to focus on the trials because they were like, oh, this is like next level. He looks really good. He can make the team. Which kudos to Michigan State for not putting
seriously
your season and your NCAA and you, which rightfully so. Like you funded this kid's education, but they were like, nope, let's look at the bigger picture here and take care of this individual, not the university. Which is a great story for Michigan State after many Michigan State things that suggest otherwise. So bravo to Michigan State and bravo to Heath Baldwin for capitalizing on the moment and making the team to Paris.
That's a great one. Good job, Heath. Woohoo!
All right. What a show. So much. We're going to do this again. Live show in Eugene soon. Kara, go get some rest.
Thanks, Des. I'll see you soon.